The goal for tonight is to get this speaker mounted in the car right here, which is going to be quite tricky because the speaker doesn't really even fit in that space, and I've got to build a box that goes in that space, and the speaker's got to go in that box. And so in order to make it to line up, this thing is going to be coming out at like an angle so it can fit on the face of the speaker box. So that's going to be a challenge to just get that to work. This is the amplifier I'm using to drive it. I think that's 100 watt rated. No, I think that might be 150 watt rated. But that doesn't really matter. It can't really do more than 100 without sounding like crap. It probably can only do like 50 without sounding like crap. So this is a 100 watt amplifier, but I think it's 100 watts at 4 ohms, and that's an 8 ohm. So that basically makes it a 50 watt, which that actually is going to line up with the good sound of that speaker quite well, I hope. We'll see. Alright, so I've just been drawing out the plans based on the measurements, just taking measurements and plotting them out on this piece of wood. So this it can be surprisingly long. The bottom is going to be, it looks like 24 inches, which is a long ways. The area under the seat itself is 18.5 inches, almost 19 inches. And so this is the side profile, and that angle, represents, where this would be holding up at an angle. And you can see that this just barely fits on that space. So that should work. We might need to do some carving with routers and stuff in order to get to really fit, but this is looking like a pretty good template. So the amount of volume I'm getting is actually going to be bigger than I thought. So that's good. Right, I've cut out the base. I've tested that it can actually fit and be maneuvered in. I think it'll work. I might have to make adjustments. So I'm going to assemble this front end first, and we'll see. Yes, this is how it's going to work. It's going to have this flat face, so I'm going to put a square plate on that. I ended up actually just, when I eyeballed out the angle, it ended up being exactly 45 degrees. I had the lines marked out, and when I lined them up with the saw over here, and I just followed the lines that I had traced, you can see right here, the line I've drawn and the line it cut are exactly the same line. So that was a real lucky break that it was exactly 45. That made things a lot easier. I would have just made it 45 anyway, but I didn't have to alter the design to do that. It was just there. So there we go. That's, again, not a ton of space inside there, but there we go. It's looking good. Alright, so this is what I've ended up with. It's just really rough at the moment, but we'll see how it comes together. This should be enough to get me started and to play around with, and I can perfect it. What I've had to do is actually gouge out a space for the magnet coil to come down because it's so long, and it just comes in and comes down and it comes into the wood and actually out of it. And I even sanded down the magnet coil a little bit so it doesn't stick out the bottom. So I'll have to inject glue around there to secure that and to seal it back up. I had to trim these sides down so it could fit better without rubbing. It was kind of hard to get in there. And I've tapered this whole thing to hopefully help it get inside without catching on anything as I try to shove it in. So I may end up, I'm originally planning on sealing these up with a piece of wood right here and here, but those actually might do well for ports. And that might be interesting to see how those work. So for the time being, I'm going to try it without anything on the back here and just leave those open, and compare it to having it closed up with like tape or something temporary, and because this might actually sound better. Just because this box is so small, it'll be hard to make it sound good as a sealed box. So that's it for now. I've just got to wait for it to dry enough to kind of shove it in the car and make sure it actually fits all right. Completed. So let's have a look at it. And that's how far it goes in under the seat. So it comes in flush at the top. The seats can come forward. I'm not sure if it'll push it out. Yeah. So if I push the seat out, it'll push the subwoofer out too. So it's tied, its limit is tied to the seat. But that's pretty good. That's about what I was expecting. There's still room for people here. There's room for someone here. It's just a little squished. But that thing can come out if it needs to. And most important of all, it's not taking up a ton of space that I would otherwise be trying to use. So it's a really small, discreet thing. So let's do a quick test with it, if I can get some power over here. All right, so I was just been quickly prototyping with duct tape the ports that I didn't cover up to figure out what's going to sound the best. So what I figured out was just having one port completely sealed up and the other port just slightly less than halfway sealed up is by far the best sounding scenario. And that's just by listening with sine generators and different frequencies and just trial and error. This has ended up actually a lot better sounding than I was expecting. You know, I was expecting this to kind of be like not a big enough enclosure and for it to just be really struggling to make do with that, but it's actually turning out all right. So let's take a listen to it real quick. So this is what it sounds like. It's pretty good. There's no crossover or anything on it, and it's just hooked up directly to this Bluetooth amplifier. So, and that's pretty good. My one concern is that this is full volume on the amplifier and full volume on my phone. And so, as it is, this would be drowned out by my car stereo. It would still be contributing that missing bass, but not quite in the way I was hoping. But this amplifier here, it's only half the wattage of the one I'm hoping to hook up to it, and having a direct connection instead of a Bluetooth connection could also make it louder as well. So it might be a little shy in terms of volume of what I was hoping, but hopefully it'll be enough to pull it off. Like I said, it's not supposed to be a kicker, you know? It's just supposed to fill in what's missing, and I think it'll be able to do that. And I'm actually really happy with how it's sounding. So let me just go to my frequency generator here. 35 is about where it cuts off. It gets really dirty at 30, and 25, it's basically not able to do it. 40, 45, 50, 55, 60, and it starts to get a little more waffly, higher than 65. So it's going to be between 50 and 30. So there we go. There's the build for now. So it's not like really complete. This is just kind of getting it roughly working, but there we go.